The No Nonsense Roundtable. It's a weekly show broadcast on Rochester, New York's 50,000-watt iHeart radio station, News Radio Wham 1180. The host, Dom Geneva, interviews guests from all walks of life, all with amazing stories to tell. What you are about to hear is a recording of a previous broadcast with limited commercials. Now, here's host, Dom Geneva.
Well, welcome, everybody, to another edition of the No Nonsense Roundtable. Here every Saturday at 10 o'clock, and you know that the past shows are on NoNonsenseRoundtable.com. And if this show is about people that you know and you should know more about, and people you don't know that you should know, here's somebody whose voice you know, but you may not know. And is that the truth, though?
I love this round table here in this room, by the way. It's absolutely stunning. It's gorgeous.
No, the little table next to you that looks like Yankee Stadium, that's round.
Yeah,
that's round.
Nice. That is very nice.
Anybody who wants to come in and be a guest with me, you can see this wonderful table that was a gift. Yeah, so whatever it is. And you probably recognize the voice, but a longtime friend of mine, a colleague, somebody who, well, I guess the first time I met you is when you came into the dealership when I had that little wooden building. And
you had run a full-page ad in the newspaper, and I came prancing in through the door and wanted to talk to the owner, and you were kind enough to speak to me, and I asked you a couple of questions, and it was early enough in your career that you wwere very sweet and very kind, and we had a great conversation.
That is such a lie. I must have thrown you out. I didn't throw you out?
Never.
Oh my God.
Well, you might have thrown me out, sometime, a number of times over the 15, 16 years we did business, but the first time I met you, absolutely not. You were sweet from the word go.
Oh, must have been drinking that day. Hey, but we haven't mentioned who you are yet.
My name is Michael Richard Whittimore. I was a sales guy at Wham for the bulk of my career. I spent the last 7 years of my career over at Odyssey with WBEE and The Buzz and CMF and PXY, et cetera.
So I never knew your middle name, Michael
Richard Whittimore.
It sounds like an assassin or something. I mean, Michael.
Thank you.
Yeah, the gun was held by Michael. I mean, it's the first I've known you for like 30 years. It's the first time I.
That's true.
That's very. So let me ask you the silly question I love asking people. So when you were a boy, did you want to be in radio, or did you want to do something else?
I wasn't expecting to be nobody grows up wanting to be a radio sales guy. What I really want to do is I want to be in radio sales.
It's the same thing with car salesmen. What do you want to do? I want to sell used cars.
Yeah,
that's
there
right.
You go. Yeah. No, I wanted to be on the radio.
Yeah.
And in fact, I wanted to be a sports guy. My hero was Vin Scully. I grew up in California, and my dad, being the team player that he was, he put this great big giant long distance antenna on the roof of our house so we could get KFI out of Los Angeles, which is where the Dodger games were, because we were Dodger fans. So from the time I was in fourth grade until middle of seventh grade when we moved east, we could get KFI Los Angeles like it was a local radio station at night, and we listened to lots of Dodger games. So, Mike, go to bed, turn the transistor radio off. But I'd still kept it on under my pillow and listened to Vinny. Say, there's a long drive to deep right field. Let's go. It was fun.
Well, it's funny because I remember back in the day, if you had a 10 transistor radio, you were hot stuff. I mean, that was with the little earpiece, and I was born and raised in Glen Cove, which is about 35 miles east of New York City, and you'd be listening to the radio at night, and it was the witching hour. You'd be thinking about New York and how sophisticated it was. And you got that from the radio. I mean, people don't. I think especially young people, they don't understand the strength of radio back then. And the disc jockeys and
it was like the internet today. Yeah. I mean, it was very personal. It was very one-on-one. I got a radio from my grandma Whittimore for my 5th birthday, and that was it. I was hooked.
Oh yeah.
I from the time I first had that radio in my room, and I listened to Arthur Godfrey while I was taking my nap. It was just unbelievable how much radio attracted me, and I would base, I'll tell you stories about every place that I lived as I was growing up, because my dad was with Westinghouse, and we moved from city to city to city every time he got a better job, and everything to me, it's based on what radio stations I was listening to in what city.
Well, a lot of people don't even understand that, back then it was AM and FM was like classical music and whatever. And
yeah. Or really weird, avant-garde jazz.
Yeah.
You get those guys saying, man, that was really hip, wasn't it? Oh God, it was awful. It was so bad.
So we still got a few minutes on this first section. I don't want to get into the stories quite yet, because you have enough stories to go around. You've been in the business a long time and met a lot of different people. We found out.
Yeah. I did. Being at WHAM for the bulk of my career, I met Paul Harvey. A very nice man. He flew his own airplane into Rochester when he did that appearance at the Eastman Theater for WHAM. He flew himself. He was about 85 years old at the time. Also met Rush Limbaugh very early on, when he was first getting started. He'd only been a network guy for 2 or 3 years when I met him. We brought him in here at WHAM. We brought him into town. We had a meet and greet for local clients who could come meet him the day before, and then the next day he also did a thing on stage at the Eastman Theater.
Well, the thing about I want to tell the listeners right now is that you have stories, but you also have a wonderful way of imitating the person that you're. So I mean, we're going to go into a story or two where we may not be actually mentioning who you're talking about, but probably going to get a good idea of who. You might get a good idea who you're talking about. But here's the other thing, though. You talk about being a sales guy, but you are the voice. I mean, you're the voice of so many commercials and whatever here in Rochester. Over the years, and you've got that trusting voice. Got to meet you to really.
Of course, then you meet me and you find out that there's nothing to trust, but that's okay.
Yeah. What do we say? Yeah, we say you and me. We have a voice for radio. And
I have a face for radio.
Yeah, a voice for radio and a face to match.
Yeah.
That's the way it goes. So what's the first job you had in radio?
My first radio job was at WHCU in Ithaca.
Okay, that sounds familiar. Somebody else there was somebody else. Ithaca. I can't remember. I had another guest. Same thing. Might have been Larry White. I don't know. It was somebody.
I don't think it was Larry. I was at Ithaca College. I was a television and radio major there, and there were a few classes that I skipped when I was there, and it was usually a problem because when I was skipping classes, I was on the air down to the bottom of the hill at WHCU. I would fill in from 2 to 5 o'clock, and Marty LaForce was his name. He was I forget what the name of the class was. It was like I don't know. It was a social studies kind of a class.
Marty LaForce?
Marty LaForce was his name. Great guy. Really,
great guy?
Really great guy. Wonderful guy. We got to be great friends. And if I was missing class, he would go over and he'd turn on the radio, and sure enough, he'd know that I was missing class because I was on the air. But that was a great training ground for me, because half of the commercials that we ran on that station were designed to be read live by the on-air personality. Yeah. It wasn't a testimonial kind of a thing where I use this product, yada, yada, yada. But they were read live. So, I was a college kid and I was trying to make my way, and I figured, well, if I'm good at reading these commercials and I make them sound relatively entertaining, maybe that's a plus.
Yeah, well, you have a voice for it too, though. I mean, after all, so. And we're going to be hearing more of this voice after this. How's that? How's that for a transition?
Beautiful.
This is Dom for my friend Jim Shelley and his Fanatics Pub and Blue Stage in Lyman, New York. Like I say, a short scoot down 390 to exit 10, make a left at the light. A couple of miles down the road, there's Fanatics Pub and Blue Stage. You can see their nightly shows by going to fanaticspub.com, but this time of the year, his patio is open for free entertainment 3 to 6 on weekends. Go! It's a great place. This is Dom for my friends at Jack Greco Furniture. You drive your car, you live with your furniture. That's why Nina and I buy our furniture locally from Jack Greco. Hey, lots of old name manufacturers of furniture switch to mass production, producing their furniture, well, who knows where. Why settle for that? Jack has quality pieces made by true craftsmen, and if you need a custom piece, Jack can happily do that. End of the season's upon us. Jack has quality outdoor furniture you won't find anywhere else. Go to jackgreco.com for more info. Well, we're back with the voice of Rochester. The voice of Rochester, I'm going to call you.
I might have been the voice of Rochester for a few years, but it's been a while.
Well, the voice of today's no-nonsense roundtable guest. How about that?
There you go.
Mike Whittimore. Now, you've worked with a lot of different people. Now, one of the people that you work with I'm very close to is Chuck Ricardo, who's all these jingles that he's done.
Chuck and I collaborated on, I don't know, probably 25 different jingles. There are likely 25 jingles that are running in this market or have run in this market, where I'm the guy who brought him in to meet the client, and we sat down and hashed it out together. I can't tell you how many Christmas mornings Chuck and I would get on. We talk to each other on the phone. You know, you get up on Christmas morning and you open up all your gifts, and it gets to be about 10:30 or 11 o'clock, and you know, we're just kind of hanging out with our family, but we're kind of looking around, thinking, well, yeah, maybe I'll call Chuck, or maybe he'll call me, and we'd talk about whatever project we were working on that time. I think it had to be 5 or 6 Christmas mornings in a row. It just kind of worked out that way. That we were always working together on various things, and did it for a long time.
Well, and I've gotten very, very friendly with him, and you know, he used to record at Motown on the other album, the other label they had. What was the label they had?
He was with the Rustics,
yeah,
and the Rustics were produced by Ardeen Taylor, who recently passed away, I think, but he was a Toronto guy. Yeah. And in fact, remember the song "Indiana Wants Me"?
Oh yeah.
That's Ardeen Taylor.
Oh,
that was Ardeen Taylor's one big hit on AM radio way back in the day, but he was also a terrific producer for many, many years.
So just give us a couple of the jingles that you.
MIG, the Monroe Insulation and Gutter Company.
Okay.
Bill Gray's.
Yeah. Okay.
Tom Walls.
Yeah.
There was this car dealer down in Avon. Genesee Valley Motors in Avon.
Oh my God. It was a trick question. I was wondering if you were going to come up with that or ignore it.
Well,
that's very, very good. And it's still the jingle on the No Nonsense Roundtable, if you know. It still is. It lives forever.
And it worked out very, very well.
Oh, yeah.
Because when I was talking to Chuck about your project, I specifically remember this. I said, there was a club back in the 70s and 80s here in Rochester called the Parliament Lounge. And the Parliament Lounge, I don't think they ever bought a jingle. I don't know what the piece of music was. It was probably a needle drop from some library that you could use for commercials. And it had this real upbeat guitar at the beginning. And it was so identifiable that you knew it was a Parliament Lounge commercial before the announcer said a word. And that's what I told Chuck I wanted when we were putting together the jingle for Genesee Valley. And sure enough, that that whole thing, which still, and it stands at just as fresh and new today as it was 20 years ago.
Yeah, it's brilliant in the fact that it communicates in about 4 seconds?
Right.
As soon as you hear that, it's for
who it is.
Genesee Valley.
Yeah.
So, or the No Nonsense Roundtable. So you have you've met quite a few people, and let's talk about something awful.
Okay, I will do this.
We got 5 minutes left in the section.
There was one time where I was at this news talk radio station, and there was a big story going on down at the county courthouse. And they, I don't know, it was the 80s, 90s, whatever. I forget exactly when it was. But we were all waiting with bated breath to hear whether or not this guy who had just committed some horrible crimes and murdered people and stuff, whether he was going to get the death penalty or not. So the death penalty story was on everybody's mind, and the news guy who is stationed out at the courthouse calls in just at the tail end of the newscast there in the afternoon and says, "Yep, they've asked for the death penalty. He's got the death penalty," and the announcer, who shall remain nameless, comes out of that and says, "Well, boy, that's a heck of a story," and then he kind of goes into a live commercial, and he says, "Now I gotta tell you, if you're gonna kill this guy, if you're gonna give him the death penalty and you're gonna kill him, how do you want to do it? You want to do it with a little drip, 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 or do you want to do it with a big old honking hose?" So and the reason I say that, it kind of reminds me of the difference between your garden variety internet provider and Roadrunner. And then he proceeds to go on and do the Roadrunner commercial, but all the while doing this comparison between the drip, 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 drip and the big old honking hose. Well, you might not think that was a big deal, but I get a call from the client. This is my client, by the way. Yeah. And if this client could have crawled through the telephone and strangled me, he would have. So I call him back, and he's screaming at me. It was awful. He says, "Can you imagine?" And of course, all the people who listen to your radio station, there's a bunch of old people who don't have anything else to do other than just sit there and listen to the radio and complain about something they don't like. So they're calling the Roadrunner offices. The phone's ringing off the hook, and he was just tearing his hair out. Believe it or not, he and I are still friends today. I don't know how, but we are.
Well, it's, you know what it sounds like? It sounds like something from WKRP in Cincinnati. Dropping the turkeys, and they don't realize the turkeys can't fly. That's exactly the
really
same.
Does,
yeah, it does.
Yeah, it was pretty cool.
Nobody would even catch that, though. It's not like dropping an F-bomb where you have a 7-second delay or something like that. That's just.
But if you're Roadrunner and you're the ones who are getting the calls from all those irate people saying, "I can't believe that you would make that comparison, and I'll never buy Roadrunner." Of course, they're never going to buy Roadrunner anyway.
Oh yeah.
But you're getting that kind of.
Yeah. Stick. I was on. Every once in a while you get one of these people that call up, and at the dealership I would get that every once in a while. Somebody would call up and say, blah blah blah. I remember that. Remember that one commercial that you did with me about Ronald Reagan and Ronald Reagan?
That's right.
Yeah, Ronald Reagan says something about
where are my spurs?
Yeah, right. And somebody called me up and said they didn't like the innuendo of him and the spurs and what he would be doing to Nancy. It's like, what? This is in your mind.
Yeah,
I don't know.
That's right.
You came up with that.
Not us.
This is. What? I forgot all about that one.
Those were
those
were some fun commercials.
Oh yeah. But then again, you stop somebody too. When I was station manager at my radio station at college, somebody wanted to do an ad, and I was the production manager. He goes, "Well, Jesus saves, and you can save too at the Olean Savings Bank."
I don't think so.
No, you can't do that, especially at Catholic college.
No.
So we're about ready to head into a news break. We all know about this stuff, and we will see you on the other side of the news break.
News break. Yeah.
Okay. Here's a message from my friends at the Rochester Red Wings, the best sports team on the planet. Could be the universe.
The Red Wings are home this week to Rock the Lilac. Tuesday has half-price tickets. Wednesday features a lilac jersey giveaway. Thursday is a college night with a happy hour featuring live music and $2 Jenny Lights. For tickets, visit redwingsbaseball.com.
Well, you're back listening to the No Nonsense Roundtable. We're here with Mike Whittimore.
Hello again, everybody.
Hello again, everybody. You got that voice. Do you ever vary your voice? I mean, sometimes you get...
Sure.
Yeah. Right?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it all depends. I mean, I'm just thinking about what you and I have been talking about here this morning. And that's all been cut up here. And you know...
Well, you did. You did a Ronald Reagan for me at one time. I mean, and then,
I did kind of, but...
Yeah.
That's not really my best one.
Who's your best one?
Well, I don't know. See, the thing is that all the guys that I'm good at, no one cares about anymore. I always thought I did a pretty good Jimmy Stewart.
Yeah, that's fine.
I thought Jimmy was pretty good.
Yeah, that's good.
And what's good for you is good for me, and we're going up that hill.
That's good.
I thought my John Wayne was okay.
Yeah, that's okay.
But you know what? Other than that, I don't know.
Somebody told me you'd do a hell of a Ulysses S. Grant.
I don't think so.
I don't think so either.
I have no idea.
I just said that to throw you. I couldn't. I couldn't throw you.
No.
So we did voices back then when you and I were doing the commercials together.
Did?
Yeah, I don't know. I can't remember. I can't remember
some different voices.
Yeah, and then I started making fun of other dealers, with the no nonsense thing.
That was fun.
Oh yeah, that was fun. Yeah.
I mean, we really for a long time. I would write them, you would tweak them a little bit. Then we got to the point that I was writing them and you'd call me back and say, "What the heck is this?" and then you'd rewrite it, and frankly, it would be better. And then as time went on, you just got you got better and better at it. You did a wonderful job.
You know what I learned from? I learned from Dave Thomas with Wendy's,
Mr. Wendy's,
because it always had a little humor to it. It's like like somebody would have a repo sale. I would make fun of them. You want a repo? Isn't that like going to Match.com and looking for somebody who's been in state prison? And you poke fun at the other guy. And you don't get nasty with it. And you and I were very good. We ham and egged on that pretty well.
Well, the listeners, the customers, the potential customers, loved it. Some of the other dealers that you had to do business with on an ongoing basis
are still not talking to me.
Probably went out of their way not to help you with the trades that you needed.
That's exactly right.
No, I'm not going to trade you this vehicle for that vehicle. No.
Well, that's precisely right. Well, good thing I don't play golf. Like I said, I found cheaper ways of humiliating myself, so I don't play golf with other dealers or whatever. So tell me some other stories, some other people that you met. Tell me. I like the awful stories. I met somebody. I mean, tell me a Reggie Jackson. Well, you were there with Reggie Jackson.
I was there with
Remember Reggie Jackson, and he yelled at that woman in front of us?
Okay, he did.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, you were there for that.
He gave Nita a hard time, too.
Yeah.
But Nita was, she was following him. So, Reggie, Reg! and he just he turned around and said, "What?"
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, he doesn't have much patience. But anyway.
No, he doesn't. Bruce Williams was... I met him a couple of times.
Who's Bruce Williams?
Bruce Williams was a network guy who did a program on WHAM. It was after Bob Matthews' sports talk show. So he was on from 8 till 11 at night, and I think he was on for probably 10 years.
Okay.
And he had a voice like, "Hi, this is Bruce Williams." And he used to do some local ads for a few people. And he's a guy who you can understand, someone I can understand.
I thought you were talking about Bruce Willis.
No, Bruce Williams.
Williams.
Bruce Williams. Yeah,
Okay.
he was very successful, very popular.
All right.
And we got to the point where we brought Bruce Williams in to speak for large groups, and we charge money for it.
Okay.
And we would fill up pretty good size auditoriums with 300-400 people, paying $11.80 a person, and Bruce would wax on eloquently for a couple of hours, and people would yell and scream and clap, and they would be thrilled to be there. But what we found out, I don't know whether it was the first or the second time, that Bruce Williams, who comes across as being this this kindly old codger, was a bit of a skirt chaser. And he took one look at Beth Adams, and all I can tell you is that, I mean, it was embarrassing. It was like he was chasing her around that auditorium, trying like crazy to get Beth Adams' attention. I'm sure he never did. Beth is one of the sweetest, nicest,
classiest,
down to earth people.
Well, you had to. I mean, in your business, you come across with people with very large egos. I mean,
you think? Yeah, a little bit.
Well, the thing that I found from talking to people here in Rochester is it seems like the bigger they are, the nicer they are. It's like Don Alhart and Jeff Tyzik. I mean, they're very nice people.
Well,
I mean,
interesting.
Scott Petoniak. I mean, Gary Craig. Very nice people. It's the people that are I don't know, they're frustrated or whatever.
They're still wannabes.
Yeah.
The wannabes.
Well, you're a nice person.
Yeah. Well, shucks, thanks.
No, shucks,
I'm
thanks.
still faking my way through.
So, I mean, other people you've met.
Rush Limbaugh.
That's going to be interesting.
And it is interesting because you're talking about a guy who was really big and a really nice guy. I mean, Rush got a real bad. It was painted with a pretty ugly brush for a while. People say, "Oh, he's hateful and he's this." The other.
Not compared to now.
Well,
Jeez,
you know what? But he never was hateful. I mean, I'm at the time I was working at WHAM, and so I listened to Rush quite a bit, and I just didn't hear the hate.
Yeah,
I never heard it.
Well,
he had opinions that weren't necessarily popular. He was very conservative, and he talked a great game, but. In person, he was a sweet guy. We did a thing with Rush 2 or 3 years after he started on WHAM. We brought him to town, and again, we sold tickets and we sold out the Eastman Theater. People came to see Rush at the Eastman Theater, and Rush was fantastic. He was just the kind of character that you heard on the radio. He was full of himself, he was loud, he was bombastic, and he was wonderful. But the day before, he gets into town and he shows up with a bodyguard because he needed one. And we did a meet and greet for some of our bigger clients at I forget the name of the venue. It was upstairs on East Avenue, from a restaurant on East Avenue. So it was kind of hidden away, and we brought people in, and I met Rush there, and in person. In that scenario with all these, you want to talk about egos, people who own local businesses. Sorry, but a lot of people have big egos. And Rush kind of stood over there in the corner, and he was very meek, very mild, very soft-spoken. I had a terrific conversation with him. He was just the nicest, most laid-back guy that you'd ever met.
Well, that's the mark of a true professional. Somebody was saying once years ago, it says, Johnny Carson is not happy all the time. He's divorced like 3 times, whatever. He's got legal problems, whatever. But you have to have that persona. I mean, you're putting on an act. Right. Okay. You're a person, and you're a person different. Could be different than you hear on the radio or TV. I mean, that's just the way you are. That's what a professional does, right?
Another guy who And again, there isn't anything terribly over the top about this story, but Chet Walker, another guy who was, very verbose, very well spoken, a lot of energy, a lot of talent. They're on WHAM forever, but in person, you get out there, with Chet and have lunch or something. You wouldn't even know he's there. He's just very quiet, very understated, very laid back. One of the most professional guys I ever worked with in my career was Chet Walker.
Yeah, the word I have for that is regular guy.
Yep.
You get, like Phil Saunders, a regular guy. And some people are just regular guys, or gals. Yeah. The way that things work these days.
There you go.
There you go. Okay, so we are headed into our last break here, and then we're going to come back and ask you some personal questions.
Uh-oh.
I have no idea what they are, but we're going to ask you a personal question.
We'll figure it out.
We'll figure it out. Bye. This portion of the show is brought to you by Martinizing Dry Cleaners in Fairport. During COVID days, I discovered a dry cleaner that would pick up and deliver. I discovered Martinizing in Fairport. I later discovered that the owner, Todd, was an ex-corporate employee who went on to start his own business just like I did, and his customer service is beyond compare. Google rating 4.9 with 143 reviews. 4.9. Call 425-4242 or martinizing.com/Fairport. This is Dom for my friend John McClurk at McClurk Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram and McClurk Chevrolet in Perry, New York. Hey, the buds are coming out on the trees. Everybody likes a nice ride. Take a ride down to McClurk in Perry and see the great deals that he has on Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram vehicles and Chevy trucks. I tell you, John McClurk does business the old-fashioned way. He takes care of you. No nonsense. And used cars, he's got great used cars. See him today or go to McClurk Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram or McClurk Chevrolet. Well, welcome back. You're listening to the No Nonsense Roundtable with my friend Mike Whittimore. And Mike Whittimore, the commanding voice in the room right now, and all this experience in the radio business.
I did have fun.
I'm just a small talent compared to you. I mean,
Please.
It's really just, but you've been in the business and you've survived all this time. Now, let me ask you a question. We're talking about, writing ads and copywriting and stuff like that. I did that when I was in college, believe it or not, at my radio station. Before we were open air, and you go downtown to Olean and you sell ads, and then you produce the ads and whatever. So, and then you would do that. You would voice the ads.
Correct.
So your first ad was what?
The Mongolian something.
Okay, but it was a Chinese. It was a Chinese restaurant. Chinese restaurant.
Corning, New York.
Yeah, and did you have did you voice it in a like a Chinese accent? I mean,
Heck no.
Okay.
I was just a straight ahead thing. And whatever,
well that's good.
And it was pretty much whatever he told me to say, I said.
Okay.
As the years went on, I developed an opinion.
Well, yeah, but I mean, like you did, Ronald Reagan. So I was wondering if you change your voice for that. Okay, but
how much trouble am I going to get in?
Don't be making fun of that stuff.
I won't.
So then, at Wham, you were handling some pretty big accounts. Tell me some of the bigger accounts other than Genesee Valley.
I did business with the Source.
Oh yeah,
I mean that was the one. Ed Musicus was my manager way back in the day before. Actually, I went to work for WVOR when WVOR was at its peak. Mm-hmm. I mean, this was the heyday. It was the number one station billing wise. It was the number one station rating wise. It was right after Jack Palvino had left WBBF, where he was a big star. He was the morning guy on WBBF, and people said, "What the heck are you doing? You went over to this FM radio station?" And basically, what Jack did with Eddie Musicus, who he had also worked with at WBBF, Eddie was the sales manager. Jack put together an AM radio station on the FM dial. And it was pretty much the first one that you had this full service morning show. You did news, traffic, weather, sports, all this stuff that all the other FM radio stations. I mean, the number one station in the market at that particular time was WEZO. It was very laid back. I think Jerry Warner was the morning guy, and they played beautiful music. And it was the number one station in the market, and the number one sales rep brought chocolate chip cookies into the ad agencies and the clients, and that was the extent of the professionalism that you would get at that time. So anyway, I go to WVOR, and Ed Musicus says, Mike, I want you to go call on Joe and Era over at the Source. They need somebody. And I walked through there, and I told them that Eddie had suggested that maybe they'd want to use me as the voice, and they said, yeah, okay. Yeah. And the rest was history. There's a really cool story about that jingle, by the way. They don't use it anymore, but it was at the Source.
Yeah, I remember that.
That was sung by Rochester Music Hall of Fame member Don Potter.
Oh.
And Dave Roberts, who was the producer at WVOR at the time, was a terrific dumb. He had a voice like this. I mean, he was all over everything. What a tremendous talent Dave was. But what he did is he finds a needle drop off a record library with that music. Mm-hmm. So he lays that down, and then brings Don Potter in, and Don sings "There's Something for You at the Source," and then a little harmony and everything else. But the coolest thing about that story is that Larry White, your buddy, put this deal together. He was selling for WVOR at the time. It was a couple of years before I got there. So Era from the Source needed a jingle. There was a roofer who needed a diamond ring, and Don Potter needed a roof. So there was a three-way trade deal made, so not a single dollar of cash was used in putting together this three-way deal. Era gets his jingle, Don Potter gets his roof, the roofer gets an engagement ring. Right, and 25 years later, who's the winner? The Source. That jingle is still running all the time.
And nobody's paying sales tax.
Well, whatever. I just, it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Jingles aren't cheap.
Has the statute of limitations passed on this? I mean, before we use this in the show,
they're not using the jingle anymore.
Well, okay, but the roof and the diamond ring. Yeah.
Probably not.
Okay.
Probably not.
You're talking about Jack Palvino. That's another guy who what a gentleman.
Smiling Jack. That's what
Smiling Jack.
That's what we all call him. Smiling Jack.
And his son is my ad rep. And
John's a great guy.
Wonderful. And you see the two of them together, it's sweet. I mean,
Johnny was one heck of a middle linebacker at St. John Fisher.
Really? I did not know that.
He was a beast.
Yeah.
He was scary.
So we got a couple of minutes left. You want to tell your Glenn Beck story?
Oh, my Glenn Beck story. Glenn, we had put him on the air, and Jeff Howlett had brought him into town, and he brought him into town a number of times. But we used to do this thing. It was called an online auction, and we would have people bid on prizes. And one of the prizes we put up for bid was lunch with Glenn Beck.
Okay.
So a guy who happened to be one of our clients who advertised on the home repair clinic outbid everybody else, so he was the guy who was having lunch with Glenn Beck. Mm-hmm. Well, Glenn Beck, in that period of time, was just blowing up. He was taking off. Mm-hmm. And Glenn wasn't coming into town and wasn't coming into town and wasn't coming into town. So finally, Glenn's coming into town. So Howlett comes to me and he says, "Whit, we need to set that lunch up. Do you have a restaurant we can do it at?" So I was doing business with the distillery at the time. So I called Peter.
Nice place.
Set the deal up. Got it all set and talked to the client who was going to go have lunch with Glenn Beck. Well, then, so it's going to be on a Saturday morning at 11:30 or 11 o'clock, something like that. So then, and at the time, Glenn Beck was such a hot ticket. Everybody wanted a piece of Glenn Beck.
Right.
So Jim Salmon and John Carr are both saying, well, that's cool. I want to be a fly on the wall. I want to be there. So I said, all right, well, let's just do it. Let's just make a reservation, and we'll get a table next to Glenn Beck and the guy who we know who's a sponsor of the home repair clinic.
Okay.
So Glenn shows up and is having lunch with the guy and me and Salmon and John Carr and somebody else. Maybe Tom Keller. We're all sitting there, and Glenn and the client are looking at us, and they invited us over, or they all came to our table, and it ended up being about 6 of us having lunch together. So we all get to hang out with Glenn Beck as a part of that. And Glenn Beck was the most charming, nicest guy ever. I think he's a little crazy now.
Oh, they're all crazy.
Yeah, but what a nice man. Just a really nice man.
Name somebody in radio that's not crazy.
I don't think I can. Actually, if I named somebody who wasn't crazy, you probably wouldn't know who the heck they were because they're not memorable.
Not because they're crazy.
Right.
Yeah.
Or just they're not memorable.
Yeah, they're memorable.
Yeah.
Well, you are memorable, and we're going to have to keep this in our memory till next week because we're out of time, believe it or not.
Thanks for having me.
Well, thanks for being here and taking the trip all the way down to Honey I Falls. Beautiful place.
It's a beautiful place.
Oh, it's
great time.
Yeah, time of day. You have to be careful. Watch out for the deer on your way out.
Yes.
Okay. Well, everybody, next week, same time, same place, the No Nonsense Roundtable.
Thanks for listening. Tune in every Saturday from 10 to 11 on News Radio Wham 1180. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll make more.